Welcome back, Catch These Hands Battle League community members and friends of the show. This is the second episode of the CTHBL podcast. I am your host, Kurt.
And I am your wonderful co-host, Josh. And we're here bringing you a pretty fun episode 2. We got a fun little game to start us out, and then after that, we'll be going over some of the teams that we really like from the draft of season 2 for each of the divisions.
Oh, we had some awesome drafts. One division might have been slower than the others. I'm not going to name names. Thunderclap.
Oh
But
God,
we got it finished, and I'm really glad with how everything turned out. We actually already had some games played, I think, in all the divisions so far.
yes, I think Mach Punch has had 3 games played. Vacuum Wave has had 2. And Thunderclap might have also had 2 played already. So people
As of
are
right now, it
really
looks
getting
like they've
into
had
it.
two.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see all of our players and coaches really getting into it.
Week 1 is underway. I actually got my match today,
How you feeling
which
about it?
I'm excited about. I've done some ladder prep,
Mhm.
built the team, did everything. I have everything ready. Played on the ladder, went 3-0 this morning, so I'm feeling good about it. But
That's good.
ladder games are different from draft league games, so
Very different, but still it's good practice.
of course.
All right. Well, my dear friend, are you ready to get into our game for episode 2?
Am I ready to? Do you even have to ask that?
That's a good. You're right. You're right. I shouldn't. Um, but as you know, I made you a little Pokemon higher or lower game for you this week. Um, it's nothing too crazy. Shouldn't take you too long. I know you are very smart, and you know Pokemon BSTs pretty well. I remember back when I was first getting into Draft League, you were literally naming out base stats to me all over the place without even looking things up. So I was like, oh, okay, this might be a good one for you. So
I thought when you told me it was higher or lower, I was thinking Pokédex numbers, so I did my research incorrectly.
oh, okay, well that probably would have actually been a pretty good idea to do too. So that might be for another week. You can't
Keep that on
steal
the
that from
back
me.
burner.
Yeah. But we're doing BSTs this week. So rules. I will provide you to start one Pokemon. The next slide will show a new Pokemon, and you'll have to decide if that Pokemon's base stat total is higher or lower than the previous Pokemon. And bonus points if you can guess the correct base stat total. Um,
Ooh.
so each correct answer is 1 point. Guessing the base stat total correctly is a bonus point. Get 13 points to win. So to win, you will need to guess at least 2 base stat totals correct.
All right, well, I'm pulling out my pen and paper.
Um, you let me know once you are ready to go.
Oh, I'm ready.
You're ready? All right. So here's our little example. Is the base stat total of Arceus higher or lower than that of Caterpie?
So I know Arceus, I think, has 120 in every base stat. 120 times 6 is 700, I believe.
Yeah,
Nope,
no,
that's
no.
720.
There you go. But Caterpie is practically the true god of the world. So what do you think its
So does
BST is?
Caterpie have more than 720?
I know it's a
You
tough
know, it's a
question.
tough one.
It's a very tough
I'm
one.
gonna land that Arceus is higher and cross my fingers.
All right. Well, Caterpie has the solid base stat total of 195, and Arceus does in fact have 720. So
Bam!
it
But I
is
don't
higher.
get that because it's
It
example,
is
right?
example. No. Hmm,
Shit.
yeah, no, you're not getting that. Sorry. So your starting Pokemon for this game, Raichu. Do you know Raichu's BST?
I think it's 495.
Are you gonna lock that in?
I'll lock in 495.
Kurt, locking in 495, and you would be incorrect. It is
Oh!
485. You were so close.
I knew it was just below 500.
But you now have your starting base stat total at 485. So your next Pokemon, Aeron. What?
Aeron.
So is Aeron higher or lower? And what is its BST?
Aeron's lower.
Mm-hmm.
I think Aggron's somewhere near like 520 something, 525 maybe.
Uh-huh.
putting Larion or Laron, however you say it, at like the high 300s. I'm gonna guess 295.
You're gonna lock in 295.
I'm gonna say it's lower. I'm gonna say 295.
All right. Well, you will get that point for lower. Base stats total is 330.
So I thought it maybe could have been in the 300s, but
I was honestly a little surprised.
with
I
those
did,
3 stages, you never know.
yeah, I did put in a couple of our favorites in here. One specific to you, just to make it a little more fun. These are
Okay.
definitely not common Pokemon. I will be honest, except for maybe two of them. So
That's 1 point.
next up, Parasect. Higher or lower?
I think it's it's higher. I want to say it's like 465, 470.
Okay, I'm going to be nice. I will give you 10 sorry, 10 points above and below. So if you can
Yes.
get within 10 points of its BST, I will give you that point because getting it on the dot's way too hard. So
Does that count for the Raichu?
it will count for Raichu, yes.
Yes. 2
So
points.
what are you going to lock in for Parasect? I know you said higher.
If I'm doing the four, if I'm between 460, 470, I'm gonna go 465.
465. Okay.
I think it's lower than that actually.
Are you ready to lock in 465?
I'm locked in. Yep.
405.
Wow. But I did
Yeah, I
get the
know.
higher
You
point.
got higher point, so that's good. I was surprised Parasect was only 405, but then again, it is one of the worst Pokemon ever made. So,
Like I said, I thought it could have been lower,
yeah.
but
So next up, we have one of your favorites, Blaziken.
all right, let's do some math here. It has 120 attack, 110 special attack, 80 speed. So we're already at 310 there. I think it has 70 in both defenses, or roughly something like that. So 450. And then let's say 70 HP. So 520. I think Swampert's the highest at like 435 or 425.
Mhm.
I know it's higher. I'm gonna go with 520.
You're gonna go with 520.
520, yes.
You, sir, are correct that it is higher, and you just got in the range. Blaziken is 530 BST.
Wow.
So you
Yeah,
will
so
get the
it
point
must
for that.
have, like I know his attack, I know his special attack, I know his speed.
I believe its HP is 80.
Okay, that's probably, yeah, I thought that too. I think that's where I went wrong.
But you still got the point for it. You were within 10. I'll be honest, I thought you were going to get that one right on the nose. But
Hey, I mean, it's pretty impressive that I know at least 3 of the stats on the
yeah,
nose.
honestly, it's very impressive. But we will
All
be
right, so
starting
2
to get
points.
harder very soon.
Okay, okay.
So next up,
I've got 5 points. Is that what you
yes,
have for
yeah,
me?
you have 5 points.
Okay.
Next up is Tyrantrum. Now, is Tyrantrum higher or lower?
I was just looking at this the other day, both him and Auroras, and I was surprised to see that they were in the 500s, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Now, the highest fossil Pokemon is Archeops. I think it's 567, like some weird number like that.
Mm-hmm. It
And I
does have a
don't
weird
think
BST.
Tyrantrum comes really that close. So I want to say lower, and I want to say 520.
Gonna lock in 520 at
Locking
lower.
in 520 at lower.
All right. Tyrantrum's BST is 521.
Bang!
So you currently have 7 points. I was honestly very surprised to see Tyrantrum and Auroras both that high.
Like I
Of
said, I was
ranks.
just looking at the other day and I was kind of shocked. I thought they might have been high
Mm-hmm.
400s, maybe low 500s.
I was looking at all the fossil Pokemon. I was like, I'd like to put one in here, and like Kabutops and Armaldo, all of them were way lower. But you're sitting at pretty at 7 points now. Next up, we have Clefable.
Clefabelle is lower. It's got like a shockingly low BST for how good it is in OU singles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think all of its stats I don't think anything's like crazy, like maybe a 100, but they're all like in like the 80s and 90s, maybe a 95 somewhere, maybe in special attack. I don't quite know exactly.
Okay.
It's lower, and I want to say 485 is my answer.
Locking in 485 at lower.
Yes.
All right. 483. I'll be
Wow.
honest, I am surprised. I thought this is where it was going to start getting harder for you. But that, another 2 points for you. 4 more points and you
Love it.
win. So
That 10
after,
point range is helping me out because
yeah,
I
it
would have missed that one by 2 and the other one by 1.
Mm-hmm. So, next up, Malamar. Malamar higher or lower than Clefable?
Now this one's tough because I also think it's below 500. Like I think it's for as menacing as it looks, it's like shockingly low BST. But I also would put it right at that like 485 range. So like I'm like it could be a 480 or it could be a 490. It also could be 500. I could just be like yapping over here.
You got to go with your gut, man. Whatever you
But
think.
man, this one's tough because it's like right on the cusp. Is it like I'm between 480 and 490, and I think this one's gonna be like so eerily close. I'll go. I'm gonna stick with the 480 because I was looking at Malamar recently because actually one of the folks in our division in
Uh-huh.
Thunderclap was telling me a little bit of his strats with drafting Malamar, and when he was telling me, I looked it up, and like I said, I thought it was shockingly low. I'm gonna say I'm sticking with 480, but I forgot I forgot what Clefable was.
483. So lower.
So I'll go just it's like threading a needle here, man. I'm going with 480 though and lower.
Okay. I will say, Malamar is surprisingly low. I will say it's probably because it has contrary, despite its awful typing. But it is 481. You are
Holy
correct. It is lower.
shit. Oh
Um,
my god, why would you do that to me?
because
Why would you put it so close?
it's supposed to get harder, you silly goose. So
Okay, so the
sorry,
480
it
was
was
singing to
close.
me,
Yeah,
and
no, you were right. But yeah, when I was going through, I spent 3 hours at work last night going through base stat totals, and I was surprised by a lot of the ones I found. Next up,
like I said, I was talking about it recently, so that
yeah,
one was kind of fresh in my brain.
Zebstrika. Is Zebstrika higher or lower than Malamar?
Now this one, I also looked at recently. Not as recent, but when you were doing a draft league
And I use
and we were
Zebstrika.
talking about, yeah, we were talking about electric types.
Yeah.
Now, thinking back, I remember, and I could be completely wrong, but I remember being kind of shocked by Zebstrika's BST and thinking it was higher than I would have expected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how much higher? I don't know. Maybe I'm making this up. Zebstrika's kind of been, I mean, I think it's in Scarlet and Violet, but before that, it hadn't made the switch. It hadn't been in a game since Black and White. The Forgotten Child.
Yeah, say it was no offense to Zebstrika, a somewhat easy to forget Pokemon.
Yeah, great design, very
Yeah,
sleek.
I like it. It's very
Um,
nice.
Alyssa uses it, and that's always a tough battle with the Emolga and
Mm-hmm.
paralysis strats and all that, unless you pick up a Drillbur.
Yeah, paralysis is so annoying. That
I
guy's
think it's in the 500s. I don't know why. I don't know why that's speaking to me,
mm-hmm.
but I'm going to say higher, and I'm going to say 500 on the dot.
500 on the dot and higher. Okay.
Yep. It could be 495. Oh!
It says 497. So you were correct. It is higher. That gets you the 13 points. What have you done there?
I was
Do you
in
want to
that.
keep...
As soon as before you clicked it, I was like, oh, maybe it's 495, but I was right in
No, you
between
were
the.
right there. But are you done there? You want to keep going?
No, I want to keep going for
Oh,
glory.
oh, okay. So now's where it gets real fun. Higher or lower? Surskit and Wooper. against Zebstrika?
Together lower than Zebstrika?
Together. Together,
Okay.
are they higher or lower?
Not they're both in the 200s. If they're both around 250, that would be higher. But I think Surskit is lower than 250. If we're thinking back to the Caterpie, that was 197. It could even be in the 100s. But let's say like 205 for Surskit. And maybe like 240 for Whooper. That would bring me to like 445 right there. Nope, 425. No, 445. I don't know what I'm
Yeah,
saying. If it's
445.
like 240,
You're right.
205.
English major.
445. That'd be lower.
Hmm.
Am I underestimating Surskit? Because Masquerade's not that great, so I don't think Surskit could be much higher than 200, if at all.
Okay.
I think combined they're lower. I'll stick with the 445.
445 and lower. Base stat total is 479.
Okay, but I
So
got the lower.
Surskit actually is like 250, I think, and
Oh man,
Whooper is like 219 or something. Um, so it's either 260 or 2. I was surprised Surskit was so high, but that gets you 14 points. You already won, but this is just for fun. But Surskit was surprisingly high. You're also
dang.
right. Masquerain is not great at all. But
Well, neither's Quagsire, to be fair, but
fair point. So next round, Veluza. Is Veluza higher or lower?
then 479. Beluza sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got filet away, and I think, and I'm not trying to read Game Freak here because they do give Pokemon busted move, busted stats, like
Mhm,
Hero Palafin with Jet Punch. But I think filet away, having that move, they probably wouldn't want to give it that high of a base stat.
mhm.
If we're looking at 479 as the mark, I'm gonna say Veluza's lower at like 475.
475 Veluza. They're saying it's lower.
Yes.
478. So it is, in fact, lower. We're at
And
16
I
points.
was in the range.
You were in the range. Another one, I was a little surprised at first. So I know it gets
I
filet
knew
away.
Veluza was kind of bad, but
But yeah, it's just not great. I was hoping it'd be better because it has a pretty cool design. And like Barraskewda is good. Veluza is just not. Okay.
no.
On to our final bonus round. Now, who
Wow.
who wins? The army of Snom. And this isn't BST. This is just wholly who is gonna win in a war. An army of Snom or a Turnimax Eternatus. This is me just completely saying I don't care anymore. This is gonna be silly and goofy.
I mean, Ice type is effective against Eternamax Eternatus.
Hmm.
However, having an over 1,000 base stat total is kind of hard to beat.
It is. I mean, look at
But I
that. Look
think
at that grabber. Look at it.
that can grab a lot of snobs.
Yeah, it can grab a lot of Snoms.
I'm assuming those snobs aren't up to scale and there's more than just like 7 of them.
It is a full army.
I think a decent amount of icy winds might put Eternamax Eternatus to his grave. I'm going to go with the army of snobs here.
What about that? You're right.
Yes.
Army of Snom wins. It has an infinite BST. Max Eternus cannot do anything against our god, Snom. I
Mhm.
love Snom. It's such a stupid Pokemon, but it's so
So
freaking
stupid.
adorable. But that brings you, since you didn't have to guess the BST for that one, up to 17 points. So you obliterated
Wow.
what you were supposed to do. We will probably do another BST one because I think it's fun.
That was fun.
But the Army of Snom is unstoppable. With that,
Really stretching my knowledge there.
I tried my best. I really did try my best. Some of them were easy, but I was happy I stumped you a little bit. But thank you for playing. And
Of
now,
course.
with that, why don't we
I,
get
I mean, to
into
be fair, you didn't stump me. I got all the higher lowers right.
that's a fair point. Very fair point. Now I need to wait, how the hell do I it's fine. We'll just look at it like this. Bye bye Canva. Okay. So, would you like to talk about your wonderful Thunderclap division first, or would you like me to go first with Mach Punch or Vacuum Wave?
I think we should start with Mach Punch today.
Start with Mach Punch. Okay, then I will start with myself. Um, I didn't have really a great plan going into this
Well, let's
draft.
explain one more time. If someone missed the first episode, we're going over 3 divisions today in our Catch These Hands Battle League. We got Mach Punch division, Vacuum Wave division, and Thunderclap. Now, both Mach Punch and Vacuum Wave are low tier draft, so looking at usually unusable, lower base stat totals. Um, excuse my French, but shitty mons.
Yes, very
And
true.
Thunderclap is a VGC draft, the official format that the Pokemon League uses. Double format, bring 6 mons, only use 4.
Hmm.
So we have a little bit of variety today, but we're going to start with our low tiers and your division.
Yes. So in my division, and for this we're not going over every team. We already have community PRs, and we'll have other power rankings done by other members of the mod team. So we're just gonna go over our own teams and 3 teams from each division that we thought would be good to highlight. Just to sort
This
of
isn't,
show everyone.
yeah, this isn't the 3 best teams that we
No,
picked from each division.
they are just teams that
This
we
is based
picked.
on, yeah, personal preference, something we wanted to talk about. If you want to see the rankings from the community, yep, you said it, the community PRs, you can go to our announcement channels and vote for your own rankings for each team and leave some comments and some tips to the viewers as well.
Hmm.
And then our fearless leader Handy will release those PRs so you can see all the feedback and all the rankings for the teams.
Which is actually very useful information for people who might be new to Draft League in the server. Definitely look at it because some people, especially someone like Kurt, who has more experience than me, he has given me great feedback in the past. But there's a lot of people who have done a ton of draft in our server, so definitely take some of what they have to say. But starting off, I will go over my team first. I had the first pick in the draft. I don't think my team's that great. I'm not gonna lie. I won my first game, um, partially due to some mistakes by my opponent, but I love my team. My entire goal in this draft was to draft Aurorus and Arctovish, and that was my entire plan. So I was like, let's build a snow team. It's not a great snow team. I have nothing else that really benefits from snow outside of Arctovish, but um, that's fine. Arctovish is arguably one of the worst. Not one of. It is arguably the worst Slush Rusher. Which is part of why I wanted it to try and make it good. Um, which is why Aurorus and Arctovish are both Terra captains. Part of the reason I wanted Terra Aurorus is because its type is the worst type in the game.
So
But
bad.
as a Terra captain, it is an insanely bulky special wall, which I thought that's fun. Also, it is such a cool designed Pokemon. I love it. Um, so my entire goal was to make those 2 Pokemon shine. Um, I did work around making some pretty good balance in my bulk and attackers. So I have some pretty good physical walls, some pretty good special walls on top of having a good mix of special and physical attackers. Um, Main issue is my team is very slow. Grafaiai and Emolga are my fastest Pokemon, and neither of them are who I would like to be the fastest mon on my team.
Low
Um,
tier is a much slower kind of
yes,
draft
it
format. A lot of the
definitely
faster Pokemon are banned.
it definitely
So I think
is.
having 2 over that 100 speed tier is still kind of solid.
It's comparing to some of the other teams I looked at though, I'm still like average, way slower. It's like you see, I get down to 75 and below, and everything's
Yeah.
just not great.
But the
Especially
Slush Rush on Arctovish
is
definitely helps.
huge. Yeah,
And having a snow team running Icy Wind,
it can
which
help
it's not as great in singles, but it is still a
yeah,
benefit that's available towards you if necessary for speed
very much
control.
so. And I have Emolga where I can use Nuzzle, and guarantee paralysis on things, which is very nice, especially trying to get rid of some faster mons if they don't have a ground type or an electric type. Um, but I think the balance overall is all right. Um, Lacking a fire water grass core very much. I mean, I have my water type is also an ice type, which I don't really include Arctivish in that core. Then my grass type is Trevenant, who's also a Terra captain, but I have no fire type. It's fine. I don't really need one. Would have been nice to have. Um,
Now, my question for you is, you have Auroras and Arctivish as your Terra captains, which are your two biggest benefits from the snow.
mhm.
However, once you Terra off the ice type, they lose the defensive benefit.
Yes. Um,
Do you have a work around that, or was that something that you planned for?
so Arctivish doesn't need the defensive benefit as much because of Slush Rush. And if I Terra Water Fishious Rend, it can Terra other things for defensive benefits, but Terra Water Fishious Rend with Slush Rush is just so much better than keeping the ice type. Um, and Auroras with 2 4 times weaknesses to relatively common attacking types in steel and fighting, if I can get up Aurora Veil with it and Terra into something that is not 4 times weak to both of those, it's just such a much better benefit than what being in snow with ice type is. Because even with that benefit of 50% defense increase, if Aurorus gets hit by a physical fighting move, it's probably going to die, which
It's done.
sucks. Same thing with a steel type move. It's not like if I fought Lucario, Aurorus is done. It can't take a hit. Which sucks because Aurorus is what my team is built around. Um, so I'm okay with terroring off of ice, and there's definitely some changes I'm looking to possibly make to the team. Um, I do think it's funny that my team's only major weakness is in fact the ice type
Yeah.
when my team is based around snow. Um, but then the last thing I wanted to highlight about my team is I don't have great pivots. I only have 2 U-turners and 1 Volt Switch Mon, and Emolga is the Volt Switch and a U-turner. Um, so it is a lot harder for me to really get this team going and switching with defensive pivots, but I like it. I picked some Pokemon I really like Darkspun and Exploud. I really wanted to use both of them. Then Aurorus and Arctivish already started off the season really well for me, so I'm looking forward to where I can go with this team. Um,
Grafaiai actually was my first ever full odd shiny.
really?
It took me till Gen 9 to find a full odd shiny.
Wow. Say only
Yeah,
shinies I've found are in Pokemon Go. Not gonna lie.
yeah, I found it on release day, and he's quickly grown to be one of my favorite mons.
Nice. I with Prankster, Unburden, and Poison Touch, that's a solid 3 abilities. Um, I don't know exactly what he gets that benefits from Prankster. Um, but
He's
I
got
mean, no,
taunt.
yeah, Taunt's really good. Um, but he's a fun mon. He's pretty fast. Um, and Unburden can go crazy if for some reason I need it. But that's my team. Again, I
I've
love
seen
it.
Swordance Grafaiais make waves before. It's
Really,
hard. It's 95 base attack isn't great, and 110 base speed also isn't the fastest. But if you can work something out with Unburden, maybe set up with Dashbun and
that could
try
be
to
pretty
dry
nice.
baton pass out, because dry baton passing is allowed.
Yes.
I can see it work, an Unburden, make it fast, and then get a Sword Stance up, but
Mm,
it's low tier. Everyone else has got low tier mons, so it takes a lot of creativity.
some very, very valid points. But yeah, that is the Grease Gly scores. Next up, we're going to move to Aquano and the Samurott Knights.
Our season 1 champion
That's
from Nat Dex Gen 9,
one
Aquano.
100% why I wanted to highlight his team. Is the fact that he is the season 1 champion, so there's a lot really of people looking at him like, wow, what's he gonna do? And I like his team. It's good. He has a very, very solid balance on his team. Um, his only real weakness is special attackers. The only one he really has is Typhlosion.
Which
Um,
Choice Scarf Eruption Typhlosion
it goes crazy.
can go nuclear.
Um, But all you need to counter that is Flash Fire on one mon or
Flash fire, a bulky water
Water type.
type, or
Yeah.
but
But
you can get it in the right place.
yeah,
That can do damage.
and I say it's still huge. Um, Another thing I really wanted to highlight: she has Cyclizar and Cloth. Both have Regenerator, which is one of the most infuriating abilities in the game. One thing to highlight though is Shed Tail is banned, so Cyclizar can't use that and benefit from Regenerator. But it still has
But it
U-turn.
does have U-turn. Yep.
Yep. And he has two really good rapid spinners in Alolan Sandslash as a Terra Captain and Cyclizar. His team hits very hard with mons like Sharpness Gallade. We talked about Choice Scarf Eruption Typhlosion. Cloth if it uses Anger Shell. Sheer Force Nidoqueen. This team can hit so hard, but it also has enough bulk in mons like Jellicent, Nidoqueen, Eviolite, Togetic that it can last so long, and it's going to be very frustrating to beat.
That the hazard control is great here with
It
defog and
is.
rapid spin on a lot of his heavy hitters.
Mm-hmm.
He's got stealth rock spikes and toxic spikes. Nido Queen could put a lot of work into there. Same
Yep.
with Alolan Sand Slash. You definitely have to be ready for hazards to come out. Got to wear some boots against this
Yep.
guy.
And on top of that, the balance between his speed tiers is very good. He has a couple of slower mons, but then, I mean, I'm terrified of playing this, especially because Mach Punch has two snow teams. So Sandslash Alola can run Slush Rush and just sweep, which is insane to think about. But then having the fast mons like the Electrode, Cyclizar, and Typhlosion with possibly that Choice Scarf, also going to be insanely frustrating to try and deal. Um, then this team, in my mind, will play a little slower, try and whittle things down, and then it just has sweepers in the back that can just run through team.
I mean,
Um,
Sharpness Gallade I've used a lot on ladder, and the 80 speed tier isn't great,
but run
but
a
that
choice
attack
scarf on
and the
it
boost
too.
to all of his main, yeah,
Yeah,
all of his main attacking moves, getting that, I think it's 1.5 times boost with
yeah, it's
Sharpness.
it's 50% boost to all
Yeah,
slashing
it can
moves.
absolutely dominate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was a 20-point mon in low
Yeah,
tier.
which very understandable. Once it got sharpness, it did become a monster for something like low tier. But overall, I love this team. It has great balance. I really think it can go super far. And Aquano, I know I've mocked with him. I've played with him all through season one. He is a fantastic coach. Um, so I'm definitely excited to see what he can do with this core. Now, our second coach, besides myself, is our dear friend Joe Schmo. And I love Joe. This is the most infuriating team I think I've ever seen. Having Butterfree and Sableye on this team is going to make people want to punch their screens playing it. Prankster Sableye with Thunderwave and Willow. Taunt with literally like every status move you can think of. So annoying. And Butterfree with Compound Eyes, Sleep Powder, since Spore is banned. Also, so annoying. Um, those are the main parts of this team though that are really good on top of all of the pivots it has because it has 7 mons that can pivot, um, which is really good. Pivot is huge in singles because not like doubles where you have 2 mons, you just have the 1 mon. So if someone switches into something that's super effective and you can just U-turn, flip turn, volt switch out, that's massive. So this is such an infuriating team. Um, well,
It's so different from his season one team where, I
oh
mean,
yeah,
he had Butterfree and Sableye in season one. He did a lot of those cheese
hmm
setup prankster stats, trying to get some compound eyes, sleep powders off, quiver dances. But this one is going to heavily rely on pivoting and getting your mons in the right position. I mean, first impression low kicks, getting him in and out
yeah, it's huge.
many times to get a high powered priority move will be awesome.
Yeah.
I know he's had a lot built up for Komala.
hmm
Again, putting a choice band on that can hit pretty hard and also avoids any type of status moves.
Yeah, Comatose is such a
But
good
he's also
ability.
got decent bulk in the back. I mean,
Yeah.
you've you've got Tropius, who isn't great and dies to an ice move, but
but
with
it's Terra
Harvest
Captain.
and berries, he can live a long time, and it's Terra Captain.
Yeah,
Camera Up can take a lot of hits. Ferocity with Eviolite will be pretty, detrimental. And then Dragalge can take any hit on the special side.
yeah. It
It's an
is,
extremely slow team besides Electrode.
which you're right, is so different than his team with Urshifu and Volcarona last year, and Mega Kangaskhan. Can't forget that.
Yeah.
Where he had 3 sweepers that he would just try and use every single week. And it didn't end up working out for him in playoffs. Definitely, probably one of the most disappointing coaches from season 1 in playoffs. But with this change of pace, this is going to be very frustrating. I do want to see Terra Captain Harvest Tropius go crazy. I love Tropius, but the 4 times ice weakness is so annoying.
I've used
Um,
it in random battles, and it can be super annoying.
mhm. Random battles Harvest Mons are so frustrating. So if he can get it to work in draft league, I'll be very happy. But overall, he has great hazard control with Kamala as a rapid spinner and 3 defoggers. Um, his pivots are really solid. He can definitely slowly whittle down teams and then even come through with something like Sheer Force Mega Camerupt and just hit them with some crazy powerful special attacks. But yeah, that's Joe Schmo and the Super Sable Eyes. Definitely looking forward to their season. And last up is a newcomer, uh, Teravolt KB and the Pittsburgh Black Kyurems. He was second in the draft order, and this team is terrifying. Um, so round one, the entire mod team may have messed up. Sinistro was not meant to be a 1 point Terra Captain. Well, it wasn't 1 point. It cost 8 points, but the points to Terra was 1 extra point. It was supposed to be like 4 or 5 points to Terra. He managed to snipe it before anyone realized it with the second pick, which is huge. Terra Sinistra is going to be insanely annoying to play against. But then his next 4 picks are all such good mons that I was like, oh god, we made a mistake. Um, he has great type diversity overall. His only weakness sort of being Fury, with Mian Shao and Noivern both being weak to it. But just look at the heavy hitters on this team, both physical and special attack. Starting with Mega Glalie, that is a great mega to get in low tier. Again, there's not many megas allowed, but Mega Glalie with Refrigerate is huge, especially if you want to hit off an explosion and just get rid of one mon that you know you can't deal with. Mian
You
Shao
got
is
the guy to do it.
exactly. Mian Shao with Regenerator and U-turn and a what is it, 120 125 base attack. Noivern, solid special attacker. Was a little surprised. Well, it can't Terra in low tier, so never mind. Not surprised to see it not Terra Captain. But 4 times ice weakness, but still, it's so fast. It hits really hard, and it can also U-turn out. Swampert is such a solid wall with only that one weakness to grass. And then Houndoom and Chimecho as other Terra Captains. Lickitung with an Eviolite is so hard to kill. Tinkaton is just a great type combination with solid stats all around. Dedenne has Nuzzle. Marowak is there. This entire team has threats all over the place. Um, any Mon could come any week, which is why I wanted to highlight it, is that this is a team that is so hard to prep for because you don't know what could come. He could even bring Chimecho as a Terra Captain one week and just Calm Mind on you. It's gonna be very, very annoying to play against.
And Lickitung won't be used much as an attacker, but having Mienshao, Lickitung, and Tinkaton, all that have abilities that are immune to Intimidate or attack for the attack drops
Yeah,
is also huge, which you don't see Intimidate a lot in singles, but in low tier, when you have to get creative, there are a lot of Intimidate mons out there.
there are.
So
Um,
being able to bypass that attack drop and still hit hard is also pretty crucial.
and one thing I love to highlight with Lickitung is base 75 in both defense and special defense, but 90 HP is pretty good, especially for low tier. But with an Eviolite on it and the fact that it has Wish, it can keep a team so healthy and it can just keep living hits. Lickitung is so frustrating. But I really, really, really want to see how far Terravolt can go. Because we saw him in, I don't remember, I think it was Monotype. He is a great coach from what I've seen. Obviously, people have hold him in high regards because he's in Mock Punch. And this team highlights that. He knew what he was drafting. This is a very solid team. I'm really looking forward to what it does. Now, would you like to switch over to Thunderclap or would you like me to move straight into Vacuum Wave?
Let's finish with the low tier.
Okay. The first team I wanted to highlight in Vacuum Wave takes a slightly different turn from everything else I've looked at. This is JJ Games and the Golden State Infernapes. JJ was with us all through season 1, playing in, I think he was in Mock Punch. And this is some great mons on their own, but I do not see great synergy between almost any of them. Outside of maybe Moltres and Vaporeon, both being pretty good walls. Like, Vaporeon's a good special wall. Moltres is a pretty good physical wall, kind of, because of Flame Body. But, I mean, just look at the weaknesses. He has 7 type weaknesses. Very few resistances. I don't see where these mons overall work great together. He has a decent amount of pivots in Moltres, Ferret, Butterfree, and Vaporeon. But, like, his Terra Captains also bother me. Cloth is a great Terra Captain. Get it off of that rock type into something better like water. Help it defensively. But then using the points to make Oshawott a Terra Captain instead of saving those points and just making something else you have a Terra Captain that might cost less.
Yeah, the first thing that stands out is having Avalugg and not utilizing it as a Terra Captain.
Yeah, when you know it is the worst type combination in the game.
At that point, it's just a detriment to the team.
Yep. And his speed is overall really bad. His only fast mon is Zygarde, who has the 4 times weakness to ice. And I think Zydog is a pretty good fun mon to use. With 100 base attack, 115 speed. It can't live just about anything, but it can hit pretty hard. But he has the Glastrier and the Gallade, which both hit very hard physically. But I don't see the synergy between anything. His special attackers are pitiful. Moltres is a special attacker, but you usually use it as a physical wall, not as an attacker. Vaporeon can be a special attacker, but I feel like that's not what you want to use it for either. This team's very physical, and I see Willow just running through it. And again, I wish he thought a little more about the Terra Captains and how his mons work together. He won his first game against One Tap, but I'll be honest, it was not a great game. And I really think that he can do better than this. And I hope that he can make some changes to maybe have some better synergy on his team. Like, I don't see the point in having Glastrier and Gallade on the same team. I'll be honest. You don't need 2 of the hardest hitting physical attackers in low tier on the same team. Save that, 19 or 18 points for both of them and get something different. Get something that could be a special attacker for you, because that's where you're really lacking right now.
I think Moltres is a wonderful pick in draft leagues, and I've used it before.
Oh,
It can be
100%.
a good special attacker, but unfortunately, that's at the cost of other things. He doesn't have great hazard control, and
Mm-hmm.
typically you want to run Moltres as a bulky defogger, but then, like you said before, you lose out on any important special attackers if you're leaving that as your support mon,
Which is,
and
yeah.
then it's just you've got something to cripple physical attackers. you don't have much to do. Like I found many times having to choose between, do I go Moltres and run it with Roost, or do I sacrifice that for defog? Do I bring another defogger in here?
Yeah,
And you're supposed to try to find mons with roll compression. You don't want to have one mon. You don't want to try to split up mons and have one defog, because then if you don't have Moltres as a defog, you're bringing in Butterfree, or you have
yeah,
Avalug as your rapid spinner, which you never want Avalug on the field, especially if it's not a Terra captain.
yeah. It's just not. It's not going to live anything steel or fighting, especially.
I mean, this whole team's not going to live much fighting.
That's a very, very fair point. But yeah, there's a lot to fix on this team. And do want to highlight, at no point in this am I intentionally calling anyone out, trying to be rude. This is for learning purposes. That is it. We want everyone to learn a little bit from this. JJ, if you do watch this and listen, we're just trying to highlight things for you to maybe learn from that your team could benefit from. Like getting a stronger special attacker so Moltres doesn't have to be the only special attacker on this team. But yeah, that's JJ Games and the Golden State Infernape. Next up is someone who I also believe is new to CTHBL, Unfairest Squid, and the Brooklyn Calibers. This looks like a fun rain team. Not gonna lie. Polytoad as the rain setter, which I think is 19 or 18 points. Is I think it's the only Drizzle mon in low tier.
I don't think Pelipper is available. Yeah,
It is not. You're right. And then Bellybolt as Terra Captain and Floatzel with Swift Swim. This looks fun. This really does look like a really fun team with knowing how hard Floatzel can hit with a choice band. Bellybolt being such a solid special attacker, knowing that Thunder is going to hit, having static to stop physical attackers and paralyze them, or Electromorphosis to, I think that boosts special attack if it's hit by an electric move. It looks fun. Looks very, very fun. Um,
Bellybolt
Also,
aside, though, it looks like Floatzel's the only real abuser of rain here.
yes.
I think
Uh,
there could have been more to kind of highlight that. Maybe a flying type special attacker with
with
Hurricane,
Hurricane,
or
yeah.
another Swift Swimmer in the back of the draft. I mean, Ludicolo's insane. I don't know if it was in the draft boards, but I have to
Mm,
assume it was.
I believe Ludicolo was. It was, I think, a relatively high point mon though. Um, but another thing to highlight is his type weaknesses. I think that's something he was definitely looking at. Or they. I don't want to assume pronouns. I apologize, Fair Squid, if I mispronounced you. So I'll stick with they. Um, but I think that's something that they were probably looking at. As you can see, they have no major glaring weaknesses to any specific type on their team. Um, I like Ariados. Um, it's obviously a terrible mon, but in low tier, run a focus sash on it or something else, and you can get up sticky webs. You can get up toxic spikes. There's a
And
lot you
this
can do
team
with it.
needs webs.
Oh, 100%. Outside of Floatzel, it's not fast. I also kind of like the Terra Captain Dedenne. Again, another mon that just hit Nuzzle, paralyze, and you're good.
The
Um,
Dene is a mon I've looked at a lot in drafts at the end of a draft because it's always so cheap,
yep,
and it has, I mean, Electric and Fairy are both pretty good offensive typings,
yeah,
but I just can never pull the trigger because it's just so bad.
it is so god awful. Outside of the 101 base speed, which in normal draft still is not great. It's pretty good, but there's things that just outclass it. And its next highest stat is an 81 in special attack, which just isn't great. Nuzzle is so useful because it's guaranteed to hit and guaranteed paralysis, unlike Thunderwave, which is not guaranteed to hit. Um, Bronzong is fun. Heat Proof can be really cool along with Levitate, get rid of that ground weakness. And Heat Proof, get rid of fire, which could also go pretty hard in the rain. If for some reason someone tries to use a flamethrower in the rain. Um, Toad Scroll is really good for not only getting up hazards, but also as a rapid spinner. Same, surprisingly, Hitmonchan, which when I first drafted it, did not realize it had rapid spin, but it does. So decent ability to get rid of stuff with rapid spinners, but no defoggers. Which is somewhat frustrating because one ghost type stops all rapid spins. Um, but yeah, I mean Wigglytuff is also kind of fun. Not my favorite mon, but high HP, decent special attack, and low everything else. It could be fun.
Yeah, I think Bronzong in the rain is definitely the real highlight here for me.
Yeah.
Running Levitate and having rain up,
Mm-hmm.
taking 50% less damage from fire moves and losing that ground immunity. You put like an iron ball on it or iron defense on it, you can run body press gyro balls and
Yeah.
hopefully get some decent damage off.
Yeah. This team, again, I wanted to highlight it as a fun rain team. Not the best team, but a good example of something fun and a little different you can do with rain. Um, and then the last team we have to highlight for Vacuum Wave is, of course, our fearless leader, Andy, and the Latino Latios. I love this team. I both love and hate this team. He also has no type weaknesses. Just gonna highlight that right off the bat. Little surprised that there's none with all 12 spots being used, but the main highlight of this team, outside of being a Sun team with Venusaur and Charizard, is that it has all three Gen 1 starters and Blastoise, Venusaur, and Charizard. Charizard being a Terra Captain, and then the other Terra Captains being Leafeon and Escavalier. I don't think Escavalier needs Terra to be good. Bug and Steel is actually such a great type. It's the best bug multi-type, with only being weak to fire. Um, but it's just such a good and fun mon. And with its crazy attack and defense, despite being super slow, um, it can set up a sword stance and then hit X Scissor, hit Iron Head. They can go crazy. Um, Leafeon also having chlorophyll in the sun. Venusaur and Leafeon both not needed obviously together, but this team's fun. Oh, and Heliolisk, who also has solar power. Forgot about that. And all of his attacks will be buffed in sun too. So this
This
is a
is a
fun
very
team.
charming, fun team in the
Yep,
sun.
it
I've
very much
used
so is.
a Sun team with both Charizard and Heliolisk before, and I didn't bring them very often because it was a Nat Dex draft and they're lower tier mons.
Uh-huh.
Um, but Solar Power Heliolisk, Solar Power Charizard are great. Chlorophyll Venusaur is awesome as well.
Yeah,
I utilized a Mega Venusaur in that draft, and there was times that I waited on Mega evolving so I could utilize the Chlorophyll ability in the Sun, which has
so
just
smart.
been it's been astronomically effective.
Yeah, I really think it was. I'm surprised at Blastoise round one, not gonna lie. But getting the Ninetales round three and then still being able to benefit with three more mons that go really well in the sun with Heliolisk, Leafeon, and Charizard. Super fun. Um, I wouldn't want to play this team in the sun in low tier. It can go crazy, but it's fun. He has Prankster Morgrim, who obviously can set up screens, Thunderwave, taunt, whatever. Um, this is just a fun team. I'm really looking forward to what the boss man does with it.
The boss man.
Yeah,
I think he'll be pretty good.
yeah. I have faith in him this season. I think he'll do very well. But that's all for Andy and the Latino Latios, and that is the end of Vacuum Wave. So now, shall we move to you and our Thunderclap coaches?
Sounds good to me. Now, again, we're moving from low tier to VGC,
So very different
so
style of teams.
the analysis is going to be a little different. Again, there's going to be two mons on the field, so a lot of the synergy with double battles. We talked about it on our little preview podcast, episode 1. If you haven't
Mhm.
listened to that yet, please go listen to it.
Right. So let's
But I
move
kind of
over.
want to highlight my team here, and I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Here we go. Your team is scary. Not gonna lie.
You think so?
Yeah, yeah. I think the Tornadus and Chiyu, and along with Cornerstone Ogrepon, who is such a monster. That is a scary first three to draft, and then Suicune as not only a Terra Captain, but such a great bulky wall. Yeah, your team's pretty scary.
Now I had the 16th pick in the draft, so I was
Mhm.
worried that a lot of my heavy hitters were going to get sniped and that I'd miss out on them. And I ended up getting pretty lucky at the end with Tornadus and Ogre Pond Cornerstone still available. Tornadus is just wonderful in VGC. Prankster, probably the best Prankster user right now. You can utilize Prankster Tailwind is probably the main way I would use it, which really helps out with my speed tiers. I think I have decent speed tiers set up. I did draft a couple slower mons at the end, but we'll get to that. But under Tailwind, um, a lot of things. I mean, it really helps out Chi-Yu with his base 100 speed, which a lot of times Chi-Yu will run Choice Scarf, but with Tailwind, that kind of makes that a moot point. So it'll get the speed it needs. Mian Shao already pretty fast, but that helps a lot with outspeeding other priority fake out or feint users. Um, so yeah, Tailwind's great. It also can negate a lot of weather teams. You see a Pelipper or a Torkoal in front of you that set up their ability with weather. You can click priority sunny day or priority rain dance and completely destroy someone else's strategy in the weather. You can also take advantage of that. Like the reason I drafted Chi Yu in the third round, which surprised it was still available, super glad it got back to me, is maybe to utilize some sunny day strategies with Chi Yu at the side, get some very powerful overheats or heat waves in the sun.
That actually
Um,
can go crazy, yeah. And that's,
I,
in our first draft league that you got me into, I used Chiyu in a singles Sun team, and it hits so hard, especially in the sun. And the fact
mhm.
that it was available to you with what, the 48th pick,
Yeah,
that's
the end of the third.
crazy. I cannot believe that it was left for 48
I had a
picks.
lot of backups for it, but my backups were actually taken before GU.
That's insane. I can't believe no one took it because it's such a great mon.
And then the fourth round, like you mentioned, I finished off that Fire Water Grass core with Suicune,
Mhm,
just a bulky water type. I think most teams should run a bulky water type. Inner Focus is great to ignore the fake out flinch. It has moves like Icy Wind. It has Snarl, which can drop the opposing user's special attack. It can utilize Weather Ball if I want to do those weather strategies as well. A lot of my draft strategy was just taking roles in VGC I needed. I had my follow me user and Okerpon. I had my tailwind setter and Tornadus. I went to Mienshao for my fake out user, fast fake out user with 125 attack.
mhm,
Also utilizes wide guard, which can stop Golden Goes, make it rain. It could stop a heat wave or a surf, and some of those weather teams you might see. I think wide guard is super underutilized. Pheasantipity is one I haven't used a lot, and I'm excited to utilize it as a Terra captain. So VGC has free Terra, so you can use whatever Terra type you want because we have open team sheets.
mhm,
Um, but I needed a fairy type, and I thought this would be the one I wanted to use. Technician with great moves like Icy Wind as well. It is a non-flying Tailwind user. If Tornadus is not a great bring, I can utilize that as well. It's got U-turn for pivoting.
mhm,
I think it should be fun. Now, Bronzong was kind of a weird pick because it's slow, and my team is definitely speed oriented. But I wanted a bulky physical mon,
uh-huh,
and I needed the steel type. And I thought of utilizing Bronzong, especially if I do end up using the weather strats, like we mentioned before. Rain
mhm,
Dance weakens fire's powers, levitate's great.
yeah,
It has body press. It has helping hand, so it's a great support mon to use.
mhm,
Leafeon, chlorophyll ability, Stantler, I took as an Eviolite, Intimidate, and then Trapinch was my last pick because I just needed something with low points, and probably won't be brought often, but it's got 100 base special attack, it's got Feint, and it has Arena Trap, which is the main reason people use Trapinch is to kind of make sure your opponents can't switch around enough and keep them trapped on the field.
and I'll be honest, Trapinch is one of my favorite Pokemon because it looks so goofy, and I forget that it has 100 base attack. With
It's so
Arena
fun to
Trap, if you can hit something with that and lock in mons that don't want to be against a ground type or whatever other mon you have in with it, that is going to be so annoying to deal with, and it would be very, very fun to watch someone getting stuck in against it. Um, But yeah, I was very happy to see Trapinch as your last pick. I think it was a very good utility if you do need it.
I have fallen in love with Ogerpon Cornerstone. I've drafted him in back-to-back VGC leagues.
Mhm.
He's usually the lowest point Ogerpon, which I find so weird because I think it's the best one of the four.
It is, especially with Sturdy, very
It
good.
was sturdy, but like it's so hard to find an accurate physical rock move. I mean, Stone Edge has what, 85 accuracy?
Stone Edge, I think, is actually only 80.
Yeah, and rock type has such good offensive coverage, and having that accurate rock type move and follow me's
Yeah,
good with sturdy. I mean, it's not super bulky, but it does have sturdy, so it can at least take one decent hit. But Ivy Cudgel is the real reason you
yeah.
run this thing,
And
is to have that rock stab.
with 120 base attack and Ivy Cudgel stab, yeah, that is very, very good.
And my favorite thing I saw looking through the community PRs when people were rating my team, Chiyu and Tornadus are the next Shaq and Kobe, and I hope to prove that point.
I hope you can as well. Now, next up, who we got?
Next up, we've got Newt.
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 Oh,
Newt's
this
what's
looks
the
like a
team name
fun
of
team.
Newt?
The Ballin
Newt is
Sandshrews.
the ball in Sandshrews. Now, I don't know where Newt picked exactly in the draft, but what I do know is that I wanted Rillaboom so badly.
Yeah, one of the best
Rilla,
mons in VGC.
yeah, Rillaboom was the one I wanted. I didn't think it would get back to me at the 16th pick, but I think he's just such a great mon in VGC. It hits hard, it sets up the grassy terrain, and I can see a lot of synergy here with the grassy terrain as well.
Yeah.
Heatran is incredibly weak to ground type moves,
Mhm.
and a lot of times in singles especially, but sometimes in VGC, you'll see Heatran running an air balloon to get rid of that.
Yeah.
But having the grassy terrain up to weaken the ground type moves allows Heatran to stay on the field longer.
Yeah.
The Sneasler synergy
Insane.
is also insane. I mean, with Unburden, Grassy Seed, and the terrain,
Hmm.
its 120 base speed becomes a 240 base speed. And top that off with, if you want to use Hydreigon as a tailwind setter, I mean, that's outspeeding anything.
Yeah, there's nothing that can outspeed it without priority,
That's outspeeding Choice Scarf Regieleki as
which
well.
is insane.
So there's a lot of great synergy with the Degrassi terrain. I think Rillaboom is utilized really well in this team. Terra Captain Jolteon is, if you pick Jolteon in any draft league, it has to be a Terra Captain, and in Free Terra especially,
Yeah.
this is done right. You get Bolt Beam coverage with Terra Blast, Ice. I've seen a lot of Fairy types. Get because I think its strongest Fairy type move is Alluring Voice.
Yeah.
So you get that 90 base power plus stab if you Terra Fairy. You can even Terra Electric for super powerful Volt switches,
Hmm.
and it provides an electric immunity as
Huge.
well. The speed tiers I think here are awesome. Um, what else do we got over here? I also wanted to highlight some of the lower tiers. Driftblim is it's a great rapid spin blocker, which you
Mhm.
don't see a lot in singles, but it can set up Tailwind and it can set up Trick Room. And on the fast team like that, you're not going to see Trick Room a lot, but you do have bulky guys like Piloswine, Knackle Stack,
Mhm.
Arachnid, which two of those can hold Eviolite,
Yeah.
but all those can tank hits and are super slow. Arachnid is one that I targeted a lot that I wanted before I took Suicune. It has Wide Guard, it has Entrainment, it has Icy Wind and Infestation. A lot of great support moves. I don't know if it could
Mhm.
help Helping Hand or not, but
I
it's part of
don't.
a really strong core.
Yeah.
Finishing off that grass, fire, water core with with a not seen with a mon that's not seen a lot.
Yeah. I
Um, and then Terra Hydreigon. I mean, that's just
Yeah, Terra
that can
Hydreigon
hit
is
like a
so
nuke,
good. Getting
and
rid of the
you
four
can get
times
rid of your
fairy
fairy
weakness
weakness.
is huge. Uh, but I mean, in the VGC league we're currently in, I have Garganackle. I love Knackle Stack with an Eviolite, especially as a Terra Captain. Getting it in round 10, very fun. Um, but you're right. I mean, this as a grass terrain team is so good. And even Granbull as the Intimidate Mon is still pretty good. Um, Obviously not a first choice for Intimidate Mon, but getting it in round 8, I'd say it's a solid pickup, despite how slow it is. If it can get a hit off, 120 base attack can go pretty hard.
But
Um,
great typing, good attack.
yeah, and overall, I think it that the Ball and Sandshrews and Newt here really made the most of their 3 Terra captains with Hydreigon
I also
built in
I
that.
forgot to mention, I forgot that Driftblim also has Unburden.
Yeah, yeah, it can go very, very fast.
So while we do have item clause, I don't think it's possible for both Sneasler and Driftblim to run the Grassy Seed.
Yeah,
But, depending on your matchup, depending who you're playing against, you can really utilize Unburden how you see fit, depending on who's standing on the other side of your matchup.
yeah. So, solid job, Newt. Doing the Ball and Sandshrews. Looking forward to it. Uh,
Good team, Newt.
Next up, is that Queen Miku?
Queen Miku and the New Orleans Pelipper.
There we go. Look at that, round 3 Pelipper. Oh, this is a rain team.
This is a rain team, and that's kind of why I wanted to highlight it.
Uh huh.
Um, so the big thing, Pelipper round 3, when you're setting up a rain team, I think it's so important to take your weather setters early on to make sure you don't get sniped. Otherwise, you end up with like Politoed, who is usable but not great.
Yeah.
Being able to snipe Pelipper still in round 3 is pretty epic. I think Torkoal went round 1, and Sun's definitely a lot bigger with the Paradox Mon. So Torkoal, you gotta lock up quick.
Mhm.
But being able to get your core of Archaludon and Zapdos and then get Pelipper on top of that is just great drafting.
Yeah.
I mean, the big thing is you've got Archaludon who has I forget the name of the move. Um,
Electroshock.
Electroshock, which gets rid of the charge time in the rain. Zapdos can hit high accuracy, never miss thunders and hurricane. Pelipper itself is it's got wide guard, it's got U-turn. Um, it does set up the rain, obviously. It can hit you with a hurricane as well.
Mm.
And Basculegion, well, Last Respects isn't allowed. It's still a pretty great Swift Swim user.
Yeah, it still does hit really hard, and it's fun. I think Basculegion is definitely really, really solid in rain. Um, but I like Ogerpon, Terra Captain, regular old
Yeah.
Ogerpon. That is, especially getting rid of the fire weakness in rain. That's pretty scary.
Now I believe I don't know for sure. I know the other Ogrepons can only tear into their type. I don't know if base Ogrepon has to be grass type. If it is grass type and it's holding the mask, it does get the 1.5 time attack boost.
Yeah,
But if it, and I'd have to look into this, if regular Ogrepon not holding the mask is allowed to free Terra, yeah, like you said, you can definitely get a lot of good strategies out of that.
yeah,
This team is super bulky on the physical side. They've
it
got a lot
really
of
is. Yeah.
HP. I mean, Alola, Glastrier, Tinglu, um, Ursaring maybe with an Eviolite, Archaludon, and even Pelipper can take a lot of hits on the physical side,
Mhm.
and they've got a lot of great pivots as well.
Yeah, they really do. And Ursaring in round 10 is pretty crazy. Being, in my opinion, one of the best Eviolite holders with a base 500 stat total. 75 in both defenses, obviously not great, but 90 HP, throw an Eviolite on there, it's gonna tank a hit with guts and 130 base attack. It can hit so hard. I don't know how great it is in doubles. I know Ursaluna was crazy in VGC. So I'm assuming Ursaring is a slightly lesser version of that, but still so good.
Now it does have a Swift Swim user in Basculegion,
Uh-huh.
and Electrode Hisui is base 150 speed.
Hmm.
But other than that, I mean, Pelipper's got Tailwind, Zapdos has got Tailwind. There are a lot of slower bulky mons on the team as well
Hmm.
that can't really utilize that speed boost. I mean, Glastrier, Tinglu, Alola, even under Tailwind aren't really outspeeding top tier threats.
Yeah.
They're just there to kind of tank hits
Hmm.
and give some back when they survive. But again, with item clause, not everyone's holding leftovers.
Yeah.
So you got to find some ways to get some viable recovery.
Hmm.
Also, a lot of ice weaknesses here.
Yes, there are actually a really good amount of ice and some decent amount of fighting weaknesses too.
Ice and fighting weak, yeah.
Yeah,
Which Basket Legion can kind of counter the fighting weakness. It's a good
yeah.
switch in for that. Again, good pivoting. Um, on the special side, not quite as bulky.
Oh no, definitely not.
Yeah, definitely not quite as great on that side. But again, running assault vest. I know Arch Aladon does some assault vest sets a
Yeah,
lot. Um, I think this team is gonna be really good. I think the Synergy and the Rain is great. They're great picks. Again, way to get Pelipper in round 3. And I'll have to look into that Ogre Pond thing because I think as a Terra captain with free Terra, it could be great. And even if it can only go into the grass type and get that embody aspect boost,
yeah. It's still Ogrepon. It's still good.
it's still Ogre Pond.
All right,
Yeah,
and
good team, Miku.
last up we have crisps.
Yes, crisps
Oh my.
and the old fashioned feels.
Oh my.
Yeah, so let me pull up my notes over here.
Trick room.
Yeah, so this is the biggest trick room team I wanted to bring up. Giraffe Rig is probably the best, or Fur Giraffe is the best trick room setter in VGC right now. And I know whoever ended up drafting Fur Giraffe was going to build a solid trick room team around it. And this is what we got. Ursulina Blood Moon, super scary.
Very, very
Uh,
scary.
Mind's Eye is kind of terrifying,
Hmm.
being able to hit ghost types. It's got Blood Moon hits really hard. And in Trick Room, with minimum speed, that can be a threat. It can
Yeah,
outspeed a lot of top tiers. It's not the slowest. I mean, it's 52,
yeah.
but still running that minimum speed, taking the IVs out, it's still at that bottom echelon.
Hmm.
Gothitelle and Frigiraffe, while different, do kind of fill similar niches.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Frigiraffe is a bulky trick room setter with armor tail that blocks priority fake outs, that blocks priority feints.
Hmm.
Well, Gothitelle is also a trick room setter whose real job is to just kind of support the team and make sure no one can get in and out with Shadow Tag. I don't see both of them being brought to the same game very often because of that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think this team is very locked into trick room.
I don't see this team doing very well outside of Trick Room. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Gliscor being your fastest mon is concerning. If you can't get up Trick Room, I do really want to see a Gothitelle Trick Room Shadow Tag work, where he can just completely force an opponent to be stuck and focus on Gothitelle to get it out. But if he can get in something like Ursaluna and just wipe out one of the opponent's bigger threats, because it's stuck in thanks to Gothitelle, that could be huge. I do see
It's just
the Terra Malamar here that we were
Terra
chatting about.
Malamar with Contrary.
Yeah.
Now with free Terra, it could use the Stellar type
Hmm.
and could snowball. There's a lot of great, like we've seen Superior and Enamorous
Yeah.
utilize Terra Stellar with that typically an attack drop turning into an attack boost.
Yeah.
So that could be if you let that get out of hand, that could be kind of scary.
That it can.
But I just think the biggest issue is, yeah, like you mentioned, this team's slow. It's got to utilize Trick Room to work.
Hmm.
And if someone preps against that with their own Trick Room user to try to counter that or plays around it, you've got to be really creative and adaptive on the fly.
Oh yeah. And definitely outside of the Terra captains, which obviously they can switch to whatever type they want, this team has a lot of weaknesses. Like a whole lot of weaknesses. Um,
It does.
which is concerning, especially I mean if you can get Trick Room up, it's not a big deal with Icy Wind. Um, but if you can't get Trick Room up, and let's say for a Giraffe or Gothitelle faint before they can manage to get it up, there's not much you can do against your opponent's moves. You're just sort of gonna have to sit and take it and wait till the next match.
I think those weaknesses, if Gothitelle is used properly, can be countered.
Yeah.
You try to get your Ursaluna in or one of your other hard hitters like Hydrapple, and then catch an opponent out and trap them in.
Mhm.
That could be huge.
Oh, yeah.
But again, then you're committing to Gothitelle as your Trick Room setter. If you're bringing both Fridgeraff and Gothitelle as 2 of your 4 mons, you've kind of pigeoned yourself into 2 mons with similar roles.
Yeah, and that's both sharing same weaknesses is not ideal.
I Ditto's great in the current reg with restricted mons, being able to
Mhm.
copy your opponent's restricted mon.
Uh-huh.
Not as viable here where there are no legendaries and the restricted mons allowed, but
Uh-huh.
still, if another team tries to set up on you or has something scary in the front, like maybe a Baxcalibur that got hit by a fire move, you can pop in with a Choice Scarf and outspeed and hit hard with a Glaive Rush right back.
Yeah, that is scary to think about. One mon that obviously I see there, right, very close to the end. Little Snom. Why pick up Snom? Is there literally any reason he got Snom outside of just wanting it on the team?
Probably just want it on the team.
That's fair.
It's not going to do anything. You probably don't bring it to any matches.
It'd be great if he did. It'd make me very happy.
Also, Gothitelle does have fake out, so that's something it has over for a giraffe.
Oh, I didn't realize. Now I'm looking at the sheet. Uh, that Gothitelle had fake out, but yeah, that's actually really nice.
Yeah, so you can sacrifice the armor tail and the high HP for that. I just think many weeks are going to come down to having to choose one or the other.
Yeah,
And if Trick Room works, it's going to work really effectively. And if it's countered, it's going to be a long day for our friend over here.
a very long day. But yeah, I like the team. I think overall, pretty solid pick room team.
So that's all the teams we had to highlight today. Again, not the best teams that we think are in the draft, but teams that we thought would be fun to talk about.
Hmm.
If you want to give your opinion and your insights on these teams, once again, check out the community PRs in the announcement. Handy should be releasing all the feedback for that soon.
Yep.
You can rank them 1 through 10, and you can also add some comments.
Yeah, and
I did,
obviously,
like I said, I stole the Shaq and Kobe line from one of our community PRs.
and yeah, any feedback that can be given is greatly appreciated. You can leave a comment too if there's anything that you disagree with what we said. We would be happy to take it and learn from it. Although we also just might not listen to it. Fine.
We
Um,
could.
uh,
I got a question for you though.
yeah.
Out of all these divisions, we talked about the teams that we think were fun, but do you have a winner in mind? Someone you think is going to run away with these divisions?
Like in each division, I'll be honest,
Yeah.
have not looked at Thunderclap that much, so I don't know it really that well. Um, I do have to say, I think Terravolt's team is just terrifying for Mach Punch. Don't know him as a coach, and there's two people you can't count out in Aquano and Fodge. They're both fantastic coaches. Um, so I think those are my top three contenders at the moment. Um, I think those three are going to put in work this season. Um, Vacuum Wave is tough because we have so many new coaches in there.
I think for Vacuum Wave, I'm going to have to stick with the fearless leader here.
I
I
love
like
his team.
I like the Sun team with 2 solar power mons and 2 chlorophyll mons. There's great synergy there. I know he's a good coach, and I know he can effectively handle this team. Good hazard control. He's covered a lot of his weaknesses. It's slow. I mean, you got a couple chlorophyll mons, but it's not the fastest team. But it is a team that hits pretty hard, especially on the special side. And you got to give some love to the Kanto starters.
Oh, 100%. I'll agree with that. If Fearless Leader can come back and win season 2 for Vacuum Wave, I'd be very happy. Now for Thunderclap, what are you thinking
For Thunderclap, I might be biased,
yourself?
but I really like the team I drafted.
I like the team you drafted too. I think of the four we looked at in Thunderclap, I like yours the most. I think that Miku's team is pretty scary in the rain, but I like that you can just counter weather with Prankster Tornadus. Really solid.
If you want to check out all these teams and more, please take your time to go down to the community PRs and give your opinion. I also really like the Chicago Blues, Mylan's team. I don't want to spoil it, but I think they've got a good setup as well.
Hmm.
But I'm excited for the season. I'm excited for my first match later today. Hopefully I can walk away with a win. Like I said, I've been planning, I've been playing some games.
Well,
As always, don't take our insight as gospel. We're both fairly new to the draft scene, only been doing it for a few years, but we like to have fun and we like to talk about people and Pokemon.
yeah, at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, to have a good time, really enjoy what we're doing, and share at least a little bit of insight with you guys. So hopefully you can learn from us. And maybe even get into Draft League if you're not into it yet.
So what do
Now,
you think? Excited?
I'm very excited. Again, I already had my first match, and it went well. I'm very scared because next week I have to play the season one champ. Um, but this is going to be a fun season. Low tier seems really cool. The VGC teams we have all look really fun, so I'm looking forward to what season two brings.
Now next week we're going to be switching a little bit from the draft league format to some more general Pokemon. August is the month of Pokemon Presents usually, so we're getting excited for Legends EA. Hopefully we get some news for that. We also might go over a couple of the matches from week 1 and
Mm-hmm.
see how people have performed, see the exciting matches that have come out of CTHBL. And we also want to give you guys the chance to get in the podcast as well. We're going to have some mailbag sections where we answer your questions. It can be Pokemon related, it can be Draft League related, it can even be general questions, just some fun topics you want us to go over and talk about or stuff about ourselves. And we're also opening up some interviews as well. We have some great ones lined up with community members, being able to talk about their Draft League experience, talk about their own teams if they're participating this season. And if you want to get on this podcast with an interview, reach out to me or Josh. Let us know that you're interested, and hopefully we can get you on.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot of things we're working on that we're super excited to bring you. Next week we do definitely have some very fun things planned. Might be taking a break from our little games for next week because I know we have a lot to go over in that episode. But I think it's gonna be really really cool the stuff we're bringing you, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it too.
Well, thanks for joining us today on the CTHBL podcast. You guys are all awesome.
And we will catch you again next week. Thank you again.
Peace out, homies.